I'm very excited to moderate here a panel with Her Excellency Sheikha Al Mayassa, Alejandro Aravena, and Lina Ghotmeh. I thought for this topic, the power of the creative economy, there could be no better beginning than to look at the work of Christo. Of course, Mike Bloomberg realized the gates, the legendary gates in New York with Christo. This is the project for the Serpentine. And for Christo, this idea of actually creating togetherness through art holding things together, but also art creating economies, micro and macro economies, just makes him, in a way, a great role model for this discussion tonight. But tonight we want to focus on architecture. We want to focus on the creation also of new institutions. I want to just show very quickly two images of the annual Serpentine Pavilion. This was last year's pavilion by Min Seok Choo. We're basically building a new structure, a new institution every summer. And this was an archipelago of Min Seok Choo from Mars Studies, a partnership with Doha, with QIA. We're very grateful for this collaboration. And of course, are all very excited about the news in London about the new Chancery Hotel, which is opening very soon, and which is a very important bringing together of art, of creative economy, and also hospitality. This summer, the pavilion will be by Marina Tabassum. It's a capsule of memory, of time that unifies people through conversations and through connections, as we're doing it all here tonight at this amazing forum. And the pavilion is accompanied by a sculpture and an exhibition of Giuseppe Pennone, another collaboration with Qatar Museum, for which we are very, very grateful. And of course, Qatar Museum brings us right away to the first question I wanted to ask Your Excellency Sheikha Al Mayassa about the amazing institutions in Qatar, about the bigger vision of the amazing institutions. It's a 25-year plan, the National Vision 2030. It's now the third phase. And of course, the building we are in here tonight, the Art Mill Museum, is a very important aspect of that, as well as also the Mataf. We're going to hear from the architects, Alejandro and Lina, later about that. But first of all, from you about the vision behind these amazing new institutions.
Thank you, Hans. I would like to first apologize because of the sound. This is what happens when we recycle old buildings and we're in the middle of progress. And I want to thank Mayor Bloomberg for reminding me how old I am, because I did indeed start in your office in New York. And it was an eye-opener. It was like a crash course in what the possibilities of what museums can do for the economy. So thank you. As Hans asked, Qatar has an ambitious National Vision 2030. We're already looking beyond 2030. We started with the first chapter of national identity, heritage, and culture, with the opening of the Museum of Islamic Art, followed by the Mathaf Arab Museum of Modern Art, and then the National Museum of Qatar. And then we looked at the socio-economic development, looking at children and sports with the opening, which His Highness opened during the World Cup, of the 3-1 Sports and Olympic Museum, and then the Children Museum, which will hopefully be opened in 2028. So here we are in the global chapter, and we thought, what better partners to have than Bloomberg and the Qatar Economic Forum, and the latest announcement this morning of having Art Basel choose Qatar as their 5th destination, a vision of His Highness to bring the art world and the art market to really support the visibility of the talent globally. So the Art Mill is our last chapter, but one could say the most valuable in terms of the value of the collection. We have also a car museum, that's another conversion of an old building. And we have the Lusail Museum, which most of you could probably see from your Raffles window because it's on the island of Al Maha. So that's where we are today, and we hope to meet the deadlines so that you're here to celebrate with us before your 90th birthday, Mike. And that's the chapter.
Thank you so much. A big round of applause for Her Excellency Sheikha Al Mayassa. And now it's very special because we are going to hand over the microphone to Alejandro Aravena, and this is a moment where we can actually hear from Alejandro in the building. Alejandro is projecting and inventing here in the years to come. So Alejandro will tell us about his original proposal, which started in 2017. And it's so fascinating, Alejandro, how your proposal is integrating ancient notions actually with extremely contemporary notions. It brings the past. It shows us how the future can actually be invented with fragments from the past. Please give a very, very warm welcome to Alejandro Aravena.
Thank you so much. So, I was given 3 minutes, and among all the things that one can say of a museum, let's stick to 3, 1 per minute. Becoming history, the location, and the collection. By becoming history, I mean that we're jumping into a timeline that was there way before us and that would outlive us. This project didn't start from scratch. It starts from the pre-existing facilities, and we're taking that DNA to create a forest of columns to host the museum and the creative village. And as Linda Evangelista said, that she wouldn't go out of the bed for less than $10,000, we wouldn't go out of the bed for less than 1,000 years. So we are planning for a museum to last. And in order for that to happen, the structure has to be the architecture. This is what we have learned from the past. The plans of the silos look like these old hypostyle halls. And some of the projects that we have done have explored that. When the structure is finished, the building is finished. That has a bit bigger chance to last for the next millennium. A bank in Switzerland where a forest is the structure, or Novartis where reclaimed brick is the structure, or a new tower in Albania where also the envelope will be the structure. Second thing, the location. It is a very prominent one, actually, that will complete the museum triangle together with the MIA and the National Museum of Qatar. But to understand the location, during the competition, I think this may have been a tipping point when we wanted to understand the scale of the operation, and we compared at the same scale 4 sites. To your left is the place where we are now, then the London Tate, the Venice Biennale, and the Kunstverein. So the question for us, was this project a big building or a small city? And maybe it's both, and they follow different dynamics. The location is also very prominent because it will extend public space to the sea, and many families that use the Corniche will be able to have this destination. Half of the space is open space, the other half are the galleries. So with the DNA of the silos, we wanted to create this forest of columns, understanding that the use at night is as important as the use during the day. And one would approach to the creative village, to the side of the museum, for outdoor activities, the Dow Center. We want to keep the bread factory. So this leads us to the third dimension, which is the collection, which we have no idea what it is. We have been working. It's like a blind date. But we have heard rumors, it's almost a myth, that this is one of the best collections in the world. I can't see a better reason for why not get this museum built so that we can finally enjoy a world-class collection. And in the meantime, we're just preparing galleries so that they can work for big works, for intimate scale, for public work, for temporary exhibitions that can receive collections from other museums, intervening the silos, or having these big spans for being as flexible as possible so that it can also last culturally in time. It has one of the most spectacular views of the bay that will include amenities like residences and restaurants. And hopefully, as soon as we can develop carefully this will be the next meeting so that we can host you in the silos, hopefully in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alejandro. And it's now my immense pleasure to hand over the microphone to Lina Ghotmeh. As you could hear in the speech from Her Excellency Sheikha Al Mayassa, the vision is really to have Alejandro design a museum of modern art in this extraordinary space, have it combined with this village, but then have what, Lina, you refer to as a creative kitchen at Mataf, a place where we can see art in the making, where we can basically see how knowledge is produced, where education is also produced, where we can see the process of art. A very warm welcome to Lina Ghotmeh.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Hans Ulrich. Thank you for making such a great vibe for this talk. So when we're talking about the power of the creative economy, I really ask myself as an architect, can the creative industry save the world? Because at the end, we want to have an impact in the world. And maybe I think it may impact the world, it may save the world, but as an architect who grew up in Beirut during the war period, architecture was for me a way to bring people together, to empower hands, and to bring us to build our environment together. So it does create a possibility for making differently our built environment, but also how to bring nature as part of the city, how to actually make architecture a symbol of resilience and make the creative industry a symbol of hope also in moments where we are in sometimes unstable territories. So this building that I realized with my studio in Beirut was becoming like a symbol for that resilience in that context. But also architecture and the creative industry has the power to build culture. And more specifically in this example for the Estonian National Museum, it's a building that was built for Estonia once they joined the European Union. They went out of the Soviet period. And it was for them a way to rebuild their national identity, but also to rebuild a culture and to transform that space into a cultural incubator. And in that sense, museums really play an important role into bringing a community together and into really re-questioning our relationships to the past, but also to build knowledge and incubate culture. It is a place of gathering, of bringing people together. It's also definitely building an economy and fighting peacefully, and more specifically here with this example of the British Museum that we are innovating at the moment. And it's about how to talk about the collection actually in the British Museum. As we know, a lot of the collection is coming from all over the world. And we're wondering how to talk about questions like decolonization in the British Museum today and what architecture can play as a role in that context. How to talk about the history of that collection through architecture and create through museums stages for understanding and for communication between one another. And I think Qatar and Doha plays an important role in that, in fostering that economy. And in a parallel way, if we look, for example, for the UK creative industry, I was struck by those numbers, like 124 billion pounds are really coming from the creative industry. We have 2.4 million employed people, so almost more than the financial sectors. And that means that the creative industry is about also empowering hands, showcasing art in the making. And Mathaf as a project is really a true example of that in Doha. And it's really a place that is an existing building that we are now transforming to become a place of craft, of making. And we want to call it the matbakh of Doha, or like the kitchen of Doha, because it's really the place of experimentation and of thinking about art and the creativity differently. So it's really a vocal place of conversation that brings us into cultures that are related to the place and to our Arab culture, where we are deeply tied to those moments of narrative and talking, an incubator of youth, a hangout for learning, for observing and creating and connecting to the world. It's a playful campus. really destined to the youth. It's a place that was an old school. And with that also, we are tackling questions about economy, about carbon footprint, because we are reusing an existing structure as well. And the last project that is really benchmark, but also an amazing feat, Your Excellency, that you have led, which is making the Venice Pavilion and having a pavilion, a permanent pavilion for Qatar in Venice. This is very rare opportunity. After 30 years, it's one of the unique pavilions that is built in the Giardini. It bridges cultures. You know, Venice is really the place where art, architecture, and all the creative industry meets every other year. And it's the Biennale of Architecture and Art. And here we are at the center of the Giardini. And this is the future pavilion that we will see in the following years. It's also, for me, very touching because it brings us back to the past with those wonderful paintings where we see the Venetian ambassador visiting Damascus during the Mamluk period. So really, it's about bringing knowledge again and fostering for that. I just want to end with two quotes that I found touching. One from Einstein, which he says, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the whole world." And another one was Farabi, who's a philosopher from the Islamic Golden Age. And he says, "The virtuous city is the one in which people cooperate to achieve happiness, each performing their role through reason, art, and moral excellence." So holding societies together, culture and creativity are not just about soft powers tools, but definitely hard economic engines. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lina. And to wrap it up, I wanted to ask our three speakers one last question, which is, I think, very, very urgent, which is the question of how museums actually can be important for the economic development, but also how museums can be important for cultural diplomacy. Particularly interesting, of course, in the context of the project Lina just showed, of the amazing pavilion for Venice, the first time in 30 years that happens. It's an incredible moment of cultural diplomacy. So maybe we can begin with Your Excellency Sheikha Al Mayassa to talk about these two topics.
I'm going to answer your second question first because Alejandro represents Chile for us. And this year, through the directions of His Highness, we're celebrating Argentina and Chile as our culture diplomacy year, a program we started when we won the World Cup back in 2010. And we experienced during the World Cup the importance of merging culture and sports and supporting the creative economy. And as Lina said so rightly, arts centers are incubators. They create businesses, they support industry. And we've seen that impact locally, we've felt it. And therefore, cultural institutions are no longer places to see beautiful objects, but they become economic infrastructures. That is why we know that so many businesses and tech companies choose to be next to cultural institutions because it inspires them to think beyond imagination, beyond the knowledge that they may have. And that's really, they've said it all, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Alejandro, the diplomacy part and also the economic part, you wrote a manifesto text about the shift from actually belongings to a noun to belonging, a verb.
Yeah, more than a manifesto, it was going to be an article in the New York Times that never saw the light of the day. It got censored. But the point was, I come from Latin America, which is a very tough environment. It's a violent environment. And we live in a time where value is connected to belongings, a noun. Actually, in English, there's this expression, the haves and the have-not. How different would it be if in our societies, belongings, a noun, was replaced by belonging, a verb? The sense of collective can be built is a narrative in which art culture plays a fundamental role. We won't create stability and certainty, which is important for economics, unless we can go back to a peaceful coexistence. So it is crucial the role of culture in that creation of sense of belonging. And the second thing is that we live in an era where we need to make decisions without all of the information. We just have to move with partial certainties, with the bits of information. And our job in creative industries is the jump into the void of the blank page. You move ahead just with a little bit of information, and that may be important for the economy because decisions will have to be taken with only partial information. Intuition plays a big role, and creative cultures can offer that path as a guide.
Thank you so much, Alejandro. And Lina, diplomacy and the economic implications of museums.
I think, museums are essential to the world. They are part of our economy, both financial economy, but also maybe an economy that is not necessarily quantified. And I think today with the climate shift, we have to start thinking about values that are not necessarily always quantified. When you look at the British Museum, it's a free museum. It attracts 6 million visitors per year, and it is free. You don't pay. But the impact of the museum on the British economy is huge. So the question is, how do you invest in art, in creative industries, and really read that impact on other fields? They are a necessity. Sometimes I'm disappointed when I see art or architecture or creative industries considered to be secondary. They are so essential to our life, as nature is essential to our well-being. Creativity is what connects you to the beyond. It connects you to you as a human. And it does create that bond between society. It allows you to understand the other in a different way. And in a way, architecture is that manifestation of those understanding in physical matter in a realm that you can find palpable. And more magically, I feel like it's a common language. Is it magical that we can live a space or see an artwork and all of us understand and feel something, even if we are not understanding one language from one another? So this is what bonds us as a society, and it has even an impact that is beyond economy.
Thank you so much, Lina. Time is over. We basically have reached the end of this conversation. There is so much more to talk. If you want to know more, I very strongly recommend that you download the amazing, amazing app, Bloomberg Connect, which connects hundreds of museums all over the world, an app invented by Mayor Michael Bloomberg. And please join me in thanking our 3 amazing panelists. A very, very big round of applause. Thank you all.